Hey everybody, this is Vija Williams with Place and Ben Kinney Companies and all sorts of different business ventures. Sometimes I lose track of my own self. It is Wednesday at noon, and that means we are here live training you, my favorite people, real estate agents from around the world. I used to say country, but it's now world. You can see in chat sometimes, Serbia, all sorts of really cool things. So we train everybody around the world that is in real estate, that's a real estate agent from noon to 1. And our goal in these webinars is that you leave with 1 to 3 things that you can literally implement immediately. These are highly tactical things. So a lot of you who have kind of been following me since the beginning know that I launched 2022 with a challenge. And it was not just a challenge to you, it was a challenge to myself. And the challenge was that for every listing we take, we are all going to challenge ourselves to get 1 to 2 pieces of business from that listing and establish a mindset and establish, processes and systems behind our listings to be mindful of that, because listings are very hard to get right now. And in order for us to all grow our businesses, that's what we have to do. Robin's going to drop that link in chat. If you want to watch that, you should watch that. If you haven't seen that one, because I kind of lay the whole plan out on how to get a 2 to 1, 2 pieces of business for every listing. And so we're really spending first quarter dissecting every single thing you have to do on that plan to get business from your current listings, right? Now, each one of these webinars can be standalone, right? They all stand on their own, but that's kind of what we've been focused on. And so we've been focused on listings and getting more listings from it, which is the most important thing. But I really wanted to start focusing on buyers a little bit and, best ways to get buyers from listings. So I couldn't think of anyone as great as Fred Sed. Fred is, he's got an advanced buyer systems group coaching program that we'll tell you about at the end, that he runs and teaches through Forward Coaching. And I just thought it was a perfect thing to kind of go over. And I asked him specifically if we could go over the whole life cycle of a buyer and all of his tips and tricks, right, on how to get buyers in 2022. So we're going to go over 4 key components today, really his 4 strongest components on how to get buyers right now in this market. Welcome, Fred Sed.
Thank you, Vija. How are you?
Good, thank you. Do you want to tell everybody about yourself a little bit as an introduction?
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate the honor of being here and being able to train this amazing audience. My name is Fred Sed. I run a couple teams in Southern California. We cover Los Angeles County, Orange County. Been a full-time real estate agent since April of 2008 and started building a team about 6 or 7 years ago. And long story short, we partnered our Fred Sed group team with Place in July of 2019. And over the past 12 months, my team and I did about 101 million in sales, 170 units, and about 2.3 million in GCI. And I do about 30% of the production to that day. And I'm proud to say that 50% of our production is buyer-based, 50% is seller-based. So we run a pretty balanced business, which I think it's shift-proof to say the least. So I'm excited to talk about buyers today because it's a huge passion of mine. So
yeah, for sure. And like I said, at the end, we'll tell everybody if they like what they hear, where they can get more from you, right? Where they can get like a whole system from you. So you have 4 main what do you call them, principles?
Yeah.
Is that what you call them? Yeah, to get buyers. And we're gonna kind of go through them one by one. What's the first one, Fred?
So number one, it's where do we even find them to begin with, Vija? Like, how do we generate buyer leads in general? People think that it's so easy. Lead pillars. 100%. Okay. So lead pillars is number one. And the 3 main lead pillars that I normally talk about in my course or in general, I like to simplify it, is open houses, inbound and online, and then your personal database, past clients, Sphere, et cetera. Because from those 3 pillars, any average agent, whether they're on a team or they're solo, can create a nice 6-figure based business, just buyers alone, if they work those pillars effectively. So those are the 3 main pillars.
All right, well, let's start. Open houses are near and dear to my heart. I did a whole webinar just on open houses and just on how Vija does open houses. Yeah. So this is a big one for me. I got a ton of business in open houses. That's why. So let's start there. What's your secret, Fred?
So I say this when I recruit agents or I train people, and I don't mean to offend anybody by this, but the general agent, at least I've seen in Southern California, treats open houses kind of like a used car salesman. They sit on the lot. They put up some signs. They hope and pray that somebody comes in and says, I'm going to close and I'm going to get a $10 million deal. Well, that's not how it works. It's a passive approach. And you being an expert in what you do, you understand what I'm talking about, right? So in our world, we already know the open houses that we're going to do. And I have 20 agents on my team in Southern California, and 80% of the open houses that we do aren't even our own inventory in Southern California because the inventory is so low. So we want to have our open houses set on what we're going to do on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whenever we're going to do it by Monday or Tuesday of that week, like locked in and ready to go. That's number one. Okay. Number two, Via, what we want to do is we want to pre-market the open house effectively. So we like to circle prospect on our team a lot and cold call the neighborhood. So we'll circle prospect that open house in Orange County, 500 to 1,000 neighbors around that open house directly and say, hey, ring, ring. Hey, this is Fred with Place. I'm giving you a call today because I'm doing an amazing open house this weekend coming up at 123 Elm Street. And I want to invite you to come over and tell me what you think and see if you know anybody that wants to buy this amazing deal. And then we take them down that path and we invite to the open house, right?
I just want to intercept. Whenever we talk about cold calling, please comply with federal laws on cold calling. And I know that everybody at Place does. We are very, very careful about that.
100%.
So yeah, I just wanted to kind of throw that in there.
I appreciate it's quick. Every state is different. So 100% what Via just said, back that up. Whatever we talk about today is just scripts and dialogues that work for us, but definitely run them by your brokerage and local laws. So circle prospecting is one, Via. Number two, when we do the open house, let's say we're doing it Saturday from like 12 to 3 p.m., hypothetically, right? Then that morning, as we're putting up signs, hopefully earlier in the morning, we'll spend about 45 minutes and go door knock the 10, 15, 20 local doors nearby just to do one last push to it as well. Then we actually go to the open house and we're ready to go. What we like to do, we like to have a table at the front door. We like to have our flyers, our business card, maybe even an iPad or a sign-in sheet. So before they even walk in the door, we want to be standing there like this. Hey, so we want to get them to register. But the best thing about this entire process that we do is the simple script that we use by a gentleman named Ben Kinney, right? And his open house script is the best of all time. It goes like this. Hey, my name is Fred. Welcome to the open house. What's your name? Awesome. Hey, people come to my open house for one of two reasons. Number one, they're a buyer looking at shopping for homes and buying. Or number two, they're a local homeowner and they're curious what their home is worth. Which one are you? When you do that, say
that to people right when they walk in?
Right away. Well, I say hi first. I ask them their name. Before I give them a flyer, ask them to sign in, walk the house. I immediately want to know, who am I working with? Am I going after a seller? Or am I going after a buyer? So then my mind knows, hey, what script am I going to use? Am I going to use LP Mama or am I going to use a circle prospecting script? What am I going to use? So I have to know right away.
Why don't you tell everybody what LP Mama is, even though it is my Bible. It's like my real estate Bible.
I love the script. So LP Mama, I call it an OG, an original gangsta script,
That's right?
Right. And it's location, price, mortgage, agent, committed, right? Then you have motivation, then you have appointment, LP Mama. So we go through a series of, hey, what location are you looking for? Is this the price range they're looking for? Do they have any sort of agent they're committed to? Are they already qualified? Are they cash, right? What's their motivation? When do they want to buy? Do they currently own? Do they currently rent? And then book a buyer consultation.
That's right. Yeah. Well, LP Mama, by the way, just side note, I use in every situation for everything. Like LP Mama is just like dinner party, open house, on the phone, just every time. It just, I naturally go right into, where are you looking? I mean, it's so natural. Yeah.
It's money. It's money in the bank. I call it. It's a great script. So open houses. Yeah. So we do the script and we enter them into our system and our CRM. Obviously, we use Brevity, right? So we make sure we put them inside the system. We ignite some sort of auto plan that we use for open houses. So when they leave the open house, they're getting texts and emails of us following up with them on how they thought about the property, how do you have any interest, kind of help them with anything else, right? And obviously, we set them up with a listing alert inside of Brevity that then assigns properties based off the criteria that they walked in. Now, the key thing is that we've already got an open house early. We've pre-marketed the open house. We've door knocked it. We've put up some signs. We've asked the right scripts and dialogues. We've closed and see if there's any leads that we can generate. We've logged them into our CRM. Now that's just part one. People drop the ball, even as good as you can be in part one, Vija. If you don't do part two, none of it matters, which is the follow-up thereafter. If you didn't already book a consultation to go meet with them from a buyer consultation, or a homeowner, go book a CMA call or a walkthrough, then you got to call them, and fortune's in the follow-up, right? To be able to get the appointment thereafter and be able to get the business.
We have a whole webinar just on that with Bob Stewart.
There you go. That's kind of a high level of open houses, and just a general way that we do them.
If I could summarize it in one sentence, and this is my philosophy, and I think it's what I'm hearing is yours, is every open house, the goal of the open house should be to schedule either a listing or a buyer consult that same day, ideally.
It's an appointment-based mindset. 100%.
That's right.
Well said.
All right.
Well said.
So let's move on to online.
Perfect. So there's multiple ways where me and you were talking earlier, and we're like, oh, what's your background with online? How far does it go? And I go back 13 years ago to Ben's IMSD days. Even in Chad's too, he was involved in that too, right? With internet marketing.
You want to tell everybody internet marketing. So all you
2000. My gosh, I was a little 20-year-old trying to figure this out, right?
Right.
But
I was
IMSD,
15, Fred.
IMSD was a designation that we all get, right? So it was Internet Marketing Specialist designation that Ben created. Chad was supporting and helped him as well. And I learned at that point, when Craigslist was relevant, like how to post on Craigslist, how to do search engine optimization, how to organically generate leads before buying syndicated leads. Right. So I would be able to generate a ton of inbound leads in Orange County, in Southern California, buyer leads and tenant leads and all inbound based leads. And I had to figure out a way to convert these. I kind of grew up in an inbound marketing based business with my dad. He was a car salesman or a used car salesman, but he generated leads via the Yellow Pages. If you remember what those were back in the day.
I do.
So he would generate leads via Yellow Pages. And he would have a simple script when he spent 10 grand a month. He probably got 13, 14 calls a day. And his simple script was, hi, can I help you? Awesome. Is it running or not running? Body damage? Okay, great. I'll be there at 3:00 today. So for us, that's LP Mama, by the way. Yeah. Just like Vija said so eloquently, we have to be prepared at any given moment to be able to bust out LP Mama. So with inbound leads, however you generate them, whether you do them organically, we do Brivity leads, which is Google PPC or Facebook. You buy syndicated leads like Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, etc., right? Or any sign calls, open house sign calls, quickly text leads, anything inbound that comes to you, I consider online and or inbound. So number one, you have to be prepared at anywhere, even at a grocery store with your kids, right? Your phone rings. You got to bust out LP Mama right then and there and be able to convert to an appointment right away on that script.
Yep,
LP Mama is a script, Vija, that we use immediately. Yep. And then thereafter, it's obviously the CRM that you use, we use Brivity, once again, is critical. So if you can have a way where the inbound leads that y'all generate, right, come into a CRM like Brivity, for example. And when that automatically comes in from wherever it's generated, it's automatically inputted into Brivity or your CRM, right? And there's an auto plan that ignites immediately. Ben's always talked about for a decade his famous 10 days of pain, right? Auto plan that he does. And we do that too, just an abbreviated version with the Fred Sed group and our information, but it's virtually identical to what he does. So that as soon as a lead comes in, right away, they're getting texts, right away, they're getting emailed. And here, Vija is the most important thing. I've known you for a while and you've been super successful in running your team, right? And it used to be speed the lead, but speed the lead used to be within 5 minutes. I actually think in today's world, it's 90 seconds because of so many different pieces of information hitting them so fast, especially with the tech apps that they have and the portals they like to use. We have to be in a position, ladies and gentlemen, that we have to contact these people immediately, during legal and normal hours that we can, but right away.
The research is showing 2 minutes. It's showing about 2 minutes because people are just flipping off of that website so much faster now. So most people are on their phones nowadays. It's a lot of it's mobile based. And so if you don't catch them when they're on your website, they're off to the next thing. They don't even remember anymore.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
So the key thing with online and inbound is number one, speed the lead. Number two,
Always.
have LP mode dialed in so you could do it in your sleep in nanoseconds. And then number three, have a system or CRM like a Brivity that can generate and bring in the lead and then have an auto plan that ignites automatically that helps you convert the lead and go from there. And once again, it is appointment mindset. You're booking a buyer consultation. No matter where they are in the process, you're booking a buyer consultation.
And that's just to pause on that before we're going to move into database. But, you guys, my regulars hear me say this all the time, Fred. Every single real estate conversation is most likely, path to an appointment. Trying to get an appointment should be the outcome of 80% of your conversations, right? Now, once you're working with someone, there's some different outcomes that we want. But for the most part, you're not trying to sell in the moment on the phone or whatever. You're trying to get an appointment. Now, there are times where sometimes the phone call or the open house can roll into an appointment. That's okay too, as long as you have time and it's the appropriate, you can do that. But I just kind of want you to know that like your outcome that you seek and most of your lead generation is to get an appointment. Again, whether that appointment's right then and there, and it rolls into it, that's okay. But that's really important. All right. So number three, so we had open houses, we have online. Now this is database.
Yes. My personal favorite. And this is the reason why, where we are in today's world, it's more important. I know that you and Ben and everybody or fellow colleagues of mine would agree. It's super important that we absolutely own our database. Under database is our sphere, friends, family, coworkers, people that know us, like us, trust us, and then our past clients. So within our database, let's call it, right, past clients and sphere, we have to own these people. We have to be top of mind all the time. So number one, the basics are you have to have a place where you can house these people, AKA Brivity, CRM, right? Inside of that, you want to have some sort of a touch program that keeps in touch with them consistently, whether it's emails and texts and client events. But the key thing that I'm going to be able to tell you, right, is number one, when we call our database, our past clients in Sphere, right? It used to be quarterly for me. It used to be, I can talk to my core past clients and friends and family every 90 days and be fine. That no longer is an option for me, Vija. It has to be once a month. We have to talk to these people once a month. And we're talking to them, we're literally reaching out and we're doing what we call our planning the year script, which Ben uses, we use, a lot of our teams use as well. And we're literally reaching out. Number one, when you call your database, people tell me, hey, Fred, what am I going to say to these people? Call them once a month. I'm scared to call them I would rather cold call than call my friends and family, my past clients, first of all. It's a weird thing that I've noticed with agents over the years. Yet we have to call these people. When you call them, number one, always know that you can bring value. Number two, when you call them, use the Ford method, family, occupation, recreation, dreams. Then after you do that and build the rapport in the first 3 or 4 minutes and catch up since the last time you talked to them, then number two, go into the planning the year script and say, hey, I know we talked recently. I just wanted to confirm, hey, it sounds like you wanted to buy an investment property later this year, John. Is that right? Awesome. Well, I think we should go ahead and set up a time where we can get together and talk about what that would look like. So I'm talking about planning the year, bringing up what we talked about, right? And then number three, which I think is the most critical, is we have to ask for the order. We have to ask for the referral. And the script that we like to use to ask for the referral via is, who do you know that I should know that's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? It's a simple script to use that causes their mind to think to have to give you some sort of a name and commit to it. So number one, we want to be able to have a place to house them. Number two, we want to be able to call them regularly, at least once a month, amongst the emails and texts and client events and postcards you may send out. Calling is the most critical. Number three, when we call them, we want to be able to do the Ford method, being able to talk about planning the year and how we can support them in their real estate needs. And then number three, being able to ask for the referral. If we can do that consistently, we will naturally help them buy homes, help them sell homes, get buyer referrals, get seller referrals, and most importantly, be top of mind so they don't even think about listing or working or buying with anybody else other than you.
So before we move into number two, which is going to be the buyer consult, right? Why it's important and an overview of key elements of it. I just want to kind of share something about database. And again before we go on. And that is that if you have a couple scripts that roll off your tongue that you're really comfortable with, that's really important, because a lot of you guys are really good at talking to your database, but you feel uncomfortable or nervous, like, asking for the order, so to speak, as Fred said. And all you have to do is kind of come up with a couple, some of Fred's scripts I don't use, I would be uncomfortable using. So some of the scripts I use are like, hey, Fred, do you have any real estate related plans this year? Have you guys been thinking about, I'll follow up maybe like, second home. I'm trying to think, are any of you or your family or friends, were you talking about buying a home in, Lake Chelan this summer? And so I'll just kind of, I'm a little softer with my database, because I just don't want to come off as like the who do you know that I should know I struggle with personally. And so I don't ask that. I'll say like, hey, Fred, like, do you know anybody that you can think of that is just talked to you even about buying real estate that I should talk to? So I kind of, you can come up with whatever you're comfortable with, but whatever it is, practice it, know it, internalize it, so that when you talk to your database, you're not squandering those conversations.
Well said.
All right. So buyer consult, Fred, number 2. Number 1 was lead pillars. Just kind of know what your big lead pillars are. And we said it was open houses, right? Online and database. Number 2 is how to conduct and prepare, right? Prepare for a buyer consult.
Definitely. A lot of agents that I've trained and coached and just work with, they just don't do buyer consultations. They'll generate a buyer lead somewhere via, I'm sure you're familiar with this, and they'll literally just get the information, maybe do a pseudo LP mama, and then meet up, show some properties, and hope and pray that they buy a house. Right. And that may have worked 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Yet in today's world, with the lower inventory that we're in and how difficult it is to get a buyer's offer accepted, no matter where you at in the nation, right? North America, et cetera, all over the world, inventory is low. So we have to be in a position where we do a buyer consultation. We have 20, 30, 40 minutes with them face-to-face, or even a Zoom call, to go over the process of how you help them successfully find the home that they want for the price that they want. Right? And set the expectations of your current local market and what they have to do to be successful. So we conduct a buyer consultation. So number 1, have a buyer consultation. And inside the consultation, don't make it complicated. If you're like, hey, I don't have anything, great. Here's a couple basic things that you can put together on a PowerPoint or a Google slide and print it and have it ready to go with them, or share your screen on a Zoom call. Number 1, have a bio about yourself and your company that you work with, and why you guys do what you do. Even if you're a brand new agent and you don't have any statistics, use your local broker statistics on what they do. That will drastically help you, right, Vija? Number 2, talk about the process of buying a home. Even if you don't know what the process is, once again, go to your broker, go to a mentor, go to a local escrow or title company and say, what's the life of an under contract for a buyer? What's the process? Put that down and put that on a couple slides. Then talk about your local market and what's taking place on what they have to do to be successful. Is it multiple offers happening right now? Are they releasing appraisals, contingencies? Like, what's happening in your local market, right? Then talk about the power of getting financing. Talk about the importance of getting qualified now. Have some slides and content around that, right? And then talk about the different ways that you actually help them find properties online, off market, for sale by owners, cold calling neighborhoods, talking to your own database. Show them a different way than what they're used to, which is, I'm going to go online, see a home, and I'm going to call that agent. No, I have a way of doing things that's unorthodox to help you find a home, right? And then last but not least, the most important part, in my professional opinion, you got to get some sort of commitment from them. You're doing a face-to-face consultation, right? So in some states, once again, like Vija said earlier, hey, talk to your broker, talk about state laws. I won't get into it. But in some states, people do what's called buyer-broker agreements. In some states, they do what's called loyalty agreements. Either one, you're getting them to commit to you some way, somehow. Over the past 7 years of building a team, don't quote me on this, but we've done somewhere right around 750 to probably 900 buyer consultations, easy, that we've, in those consultations, we've done a couple thousand actually, but in those consultations, we've gotten those consumers to at least sign with us and to work with us, right? And we've done that via a loyalty agreement for our team.
Okay, so let's walk through what that sounds like. So you and I are, let's say we're in person and we're across the table together, and we've just spent, 45 minutes together, and we've gone through process and all the things, needs and wants, and what to expect. So let's let's do a role play on how you close
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah, definitely. So Vija, hey, I appreciate the time today. Thank you so much for taking, the past 30 minutes and meeting with me. And before we go, here's what I'd like to explain to you. When we help people buy and sell real estate, for example, if I was going to sell your friend's home, I have to sign an exclusive listing agreement so I can sell their home. You're kind of familiar with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Now, the way that we operate is we don't force you to work with us. We just want a commitment, though, because there's so much that's going to go inside of my team and I helping you find a home, the right home for you and your family, whether it takes a week or whether it takes 3 months. And the cool thing for you is, guess what? We actually don't charge you anything. Our compensation is on behalf of the seller once we find that home for you, successfully close. So technically, hey, our services are free for you when it comes to what we do. Now, in order to do that, though, we want to make sure, Via, that the amount of time that we're going to put in, we want you to be happy. We want you to be loyal to us, and we want you to buy that home with us, and you can see why. So what we do on our team here at the Fred Sed Group is we actually have you and I agree to what we call a loyalty agreement, which is nothing more than an integrity document that we use so that we're committed to each other. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Perfect. So what I'd like to do now is I'm going to pull out the loyalty agreement and I'm going to go through what we're going to offer for you and how we're going to be able to serve you and then the expectation that we have in return. Is that fair?
That's fair, yeah.
Perfect. And then I'll pull it out and then I'll go through it. So would you like me to go through it now?
Yeah, let's do it so we can get started.
You want me to pull it up?
Oh, no, that's okay.
Cool.
I want to get through all of our stuff.
Perfect.
So can I share with you how I do it? Because it's a little different, but it's also similar. So I also use a loyalty agreement as opposed to like a buyer brokerage agreement, right? Like our MLS has, sort of legal buyer brokerage agreements. Fred, I don't know if yours does in California. I'm in Seattle. And they're just kind of scary documents. And so I came up with a loyalty agreement a long time ago that frankly is not legally binding. But what I started doing years ago, and it's kind of a funny story and it happened by accident, is my stellar broker. We have a phenomenal broker here in our, she's actually in charge of all of our 8 offices. Her name's Janine Wood. And she said, hey, we're going to have to come up with, we're going to have a disclosure packet. We want to protect our agents. We just have great broker coverage here. And she came up with a whole, like a wire fraud, agency law brochures, all the things that would protect us. And I kind of complained about it. I know it's so embarrassing to say, but sorry, my earpiece is coming out. So I kind of complained. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry about that. My earphone just went to Siri. So I kind of complained about it and like, I don't want to have my clients sign all this stuff. And then I sat in on a buyer consult, Fred. It was with a new agent I had. Okay. And I hadn't worked with a buyer in like a few years. This was a long time. This was like 2017. And I was like, maybe it was 2018. I was like, oh, like I've got to train this agent. There's no one around. So I'm like, all right, I'll come in and I'll do the buyer consult and you watch, right? But it'll be your buyer. So we go through it. And at the very end, words came out of my mouth. I don't know where they came from, but I said, okay, so we have a whole, buyer disclosure packet that we're going to use to get you all set up on AuthentiSign. AuthentiSign is our digital signature. And you remember when we had that conversation about what to expect and about how, now all of our offers are done via digital signature. So it's really important that we get you set up and comfortable with that now, so that when we're ready to make our offer, it's seamless and you're not stressed about that part of it, right? So what we've decided to do is we put all of our buyer disclosures on that, and on that is a buyer loyalty agreement because I'm super excited to work with you. I just want to be square. Are we working together? Are we good? Do you want to work together? Great. All right, Fred. So that's going to be on there, and there's going to be wire fraud, agency law. I've got a copy of all of them in the folder, and those should already be in your inbox right now. If not, they will be there by the time you get home, or I can pull them up right now if you want to have me help you log in and create an account. Do you want to do that together? And I just assume that they're working with me, and I wrap it up. And what happens is they're signing legal documents with you. Mm-hmm. They're signing all of the office disclosures. And in our day, I think we had 80 or 90% buyer loyalty agreements signed that way. And all of the disclosures signed before they even got in the car.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That was a really good approach. Really good approach. Love that.
Yeah.
The key thing is that they have to have an approach. I think yours was amazing.
You know what? Well said, Fred. You know what? You're so right. That's really the secret to all of this, isn't it? Everyone's got their own scripts. I'm really glad you said that. You just have to have an approach that you feel confident and you can close to. You're right. That was brilliant, actually. All right. So that number one was lead pillars. Number two is a buyer consult, right? That ends in the outcome we want is they understand the process, Fred, and they have some kind of an agreement signed with us. What's number three?
So the showing process in general. So for the sake of time today, what Vija and I wanted to talk about that we thought was something that the nation has talked about in our industry is the showing assistant model, the showing partner model that we talked about, right, Vija? So the key thing is that the one thing that takes the most amount of time when it comes to the buyer business is what? Showings. Time, right? And if any one time you, I, Vija, our team, you out there, let's say you have anywhere from 4 to 5 qualified buyers. By qualified buyers in our pipeline model, we call them 10 buyers. A 10 qualified rating is the highest rating for a buyer. And they're qualified, they're approved, and they will literally buy a home within 30 days as long as it meets their criteria and they're right with you. Okay. So let's say once you get this going, it's easily after a month or two, you can be in a position where you have 4 or 5, 10 buyers that you're working with. Think about that for a second. And you might show one person 1 or 2 homes a week. You might show one 10 or 15, depending on their qualification and criteria. You're spending 15 or 20 hours a week minimum with these 4 or 5 buyers Vija showing them properties. Now, what if there was a way where you can leverage that out effectively and efficiently and get the 15 or 20 hours back a week? In our world and place, Ben Kinney team, Fred Sed group, all of us, we call that a showing assistant, AKA showing partner. So we hire the right talented person to be able to help us as our team being able to show the properties to buyers. And these individuals, because remember, in this step, in case you want to do a showing assistant model or showing partner model, I, the lead agent, am doing the lead generation, the lead follow-up. I'm getting them to the buyer consultation. I'm doing that. And then we'll talk about in a second, but I'm setting the right expectation with that person, that buyer, that, hey, this is my partner that's going to help you show properties. So the showing assistant is showing all the properties. The showing assistant is going to any home inspections, going to any walkthroughs, going to anything physical. You as a lead agent are generating the lead, helping them to the buyer consultation, writing and negotiating offers, and then problem solving the transaction when it's under contract.
Okay, I want to spend some time on this. So, because this is a topic that we don't talk a lot about. And I get, a lot of pushback from agents when I'm coaching them and talking with them, like, oh, that wouldn't work with me. That wouldn't work with me because Fred, they need to work with me. I have to show them all the houses. So I really, really, really want to break this down. I want to break it down as far as how you hand off your showing agent, like how you quote unquote sell that to your client, and just how it works, what you pay. I want to spend time on this.
Yeah, great question. So number one, the foundational mindset that we have to have, and I struggle with, I've used the showing assistant model since mid-2014. So it's been quite a while as I've been using it personally in my personal production. We have to understand that we believe that a client wants to work with us. Yet what we have to acknowledge, the truth is that they want to work with the standards that we operate by and the way that we set things up, right? So when I'm at a buyer consultation, number one, what I say during the buyer consultation when it comes to showing and the process thereafter, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, what we do is we want to make sure in today's competitive market that you're able to see a home 7 days a week within an hour notice, depending on where it's at, lunch breaks, after work, weekends. Now, if I'm sitting here with you, that's going to be really tough. So we created a system that our clients absolutely love. And I have a dedicated showing partner. Her name is Tammy, and she's going to be able to be available to you literally 7 days a week, whether I'm going to show the property or the majority of the time she's going to show you the properties. Hey, She's amazing at it. And at the end of the day, with all due respect, she's literally going to show you homes and open doors and go from there. The real work comes into, hey, Fred, we like this property. Hey, what is it worth? What's the negotiation tactic? How can we get the home? What do we got to do legally to get this house? Then once we're under contract, hey, what does our inspection report look like? What if the appraisal comes in low? All of that I'm still going to do. I'm your agent, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. Yet the showing assistant, showing partner is going to be able to give you access because that's what you want, right?
Fred, I mean, we want you to come see the house. So when we find the house we're going to make an offer on, are you going to come see it?
Absolutely. So
okay.
Let's say you're going to look at 25 homes in the next 7 days because that's what homes are available. We're going to look at 25 and we're going to determine what's that one we're going to write an offer on. And we're going to write that offer. And before we get it accepted and before we put money in title or escrow, hey, I'll come out there right away, do a walkthrough with you and confirm that I think it's the right fit as well.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And I mean, what if we want your input on other ones? Would you come see those too?
If you need me, absolutely. And at the end of the day, I've been doing this for the past 7 consecutive years. We've done a couple hundred clients this way, and we've never really had an issue. Trust me when I say I know what I'm doing, and your goal is to get a home. Your goal is to get the right price, and your goal is to be happy with your family and build wealth. And
so it's more important to get in the home fast than to be with you.
Correct. Because you don't need me to open a door with all due respect, right? You need me to negotiate the right price, make sure you're not overpaying for the home and getting the right terms and conditions and being happy and making sure this fits your criteria. And if I got to go in there and open the door after we put an offer and get accepted, I'll do that in a heartbeat for you. Don't worry about that piece. Myself, my showing assistant, and you, we're all on the same team, but I'm leading this show and I got your back. So don't worry about that.
Is it going to be the same showing assistant every time?
Yes.
Okay. Are we going to get to meet this person?
Oh yeah, Tammy, definitely. She's been doing this for 7 years and she's helped hundreds of clients and she's quite amazing. Trust me when I say the first time you go out, you guys will be amazing. For whatever reason, if you don't like her, which you'll be the first one in 7 years to tell me that, you can go ahead and tell me that and I can take her all the showings if that's a problem. It's just not going to happen.
Okay, that's awesome. That sounds great. I'm excited that we can get in the house this fast. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Absolutely.
Are there any other objections that people kind of speak up about?
No, that's important. I had one recently, believe it or not. I mean, I still do personally. My team did over 50 million in buyers last year, 70 plus transactions. I've done probably year to date. I think I've done about 6 or 7 buyers myself, which is a decent amount for me, right?
It is.
And one out of those 6 or 7 wanted me to go a couple times and see homes. Personal friend, daughter's a good friend of mine. She's been burned multiple times on properties, came to us and said, please come with me this one time. And I said, sure, I'm going to come with you. And I showed her for homes, went from there. But that was the only one. The other ones, I haven't looked at any of them. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So from a kind of going into structural in the back end now, what do we pay? What do we pay a showing agent, showing assistant?
I've looked at it from every way you can physically imagine. And I tested multiple things. They didn't work. And what I realized is what I'm doing now currently works. Now, the percentages that I'm going to give you are to our average price point. Our average price point that we work with in Southern California roughly hovers around $700,000 to $750,000. So take that into consideration. If you have a $250,000 price point, don't do this, and I'll give you some suggestions. But for us, there's 2 things I use a showing assistant for. I use them for buyers, show properties, conduct home inspections, go walkthroughs, etc. I give them 10% of the GCI that I collect. Okay, number one. Mind you, our price point's pretty high, right? If I was in a $250,000 price point, fellow colleagues of mine have done 15 to 25% of the GCI for showing assistants. Just depends on the price point, right? And then everything in between. Number 2, I actually use them for sellers as well, believe it or not. I have them meet the photographer. I have them put up the sign, put up the lockbox, maybe do some open houses if I can't make it, meet the termite, meet the appraiser. I don't physically go back to a seller's home unless I need to, but I only go there the first time, which is signed a contract. And for that, I give them 5% of the GCI, mind you, our price point. Sometimes agents are giving 10 to 15% across the nation on lower price points. And I'm covering their gas expenses for the month. Gas these days, it might be $400 or $500 a month, depending on what it is. They are tied to the closing. I don't pay them per showing. I don't pay them a salary. They're not an employee. They're an independent contractor in our model, right? Which is fine because they're an agent with us and it works out really well. I know other teams that do it different ways. That's just the way that we do it. And it works really well.
what, oh, I just lost what I was going to ask you. Okay, good. Good. I don't know what I was going to just ask you. Oh, I know what I was going to ask you. What's a good candidate to be showing agent, showing assistant?
Oh gosh, I have a couple agents of mine on my team that now qualify in our model, and I'm helping hire them showing assistants because they're so busy, right? Which is good. And I know the power of a showing assistant model. So the candidate is number one, they have to be licensed. Obviously, in our world, they have to be licensed because they have access to the MLS, set up showings, talk about sales prices, legality, etc. Number two, we want somebody who's fully available. So what do I mean by that? We don't want them working 7 days a week, right? We want them taking time off, but we know that weekends is bread and butter for showing assistants, right? So they have to be available. So the availability is key for us. The next thing is making sure that they're in a position where they're hungry and humble. Believe it or not, whether a showing assistant wants to remain that, because some showing assistants we know in place in our world throughout the nation, these guys and gals make 60, 70, 80, 110,000 a year. I mean, that's a great net income to bring in depending on where you live, obviously, right? So we want to make sure that they're either committed to being a part of that lead agent's team long-term, or if they're looking for, I want to just be there for 2 months and then I want to become an agent. That's not going to work. We want them to grow with that person. Now, if they grow so well that they want to become an actual lead agent themselves in 6, 12, 18 months, that's fine, right? But we want to make sure they're committed to that person in this process for quite some time so they can build this pipeline together and make some money together, which is good.
And I remember that was my other question that I'd forgotten a second ago was hours. I was going to ask you, so are they like a Thursday through Monday week or something, or what? How do you?
So depending on what it is, once again, they're in our model, they're independent contractors, they're real estate agents. They're not an employee that has to work 40 hours a week, whatever state you're working in. They are independent contractors. Okay. They can also do their own personal production if they want as well. Right. So in our world, at least minimum, we want them taking a day off during the week, right? Maybe even a day and a half off, depending on how busy that person is, because they got to get to the lives, do their dry cleaning, enjoy, take some time off, go to the beach, whatever it is. The key thing, though, is making sure that the weekends are available. Weekends are available. And I'm not saying 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. I'm just saying have it available depending on the clientele.
For as long as I've been in real estate, I've always suggested that agents take Wednesday off, which is actually why I do these webinars on Wednesday. It's a great, I assume most people listen to these while driving around doing stuff or having on, while they're kind of doing other things. Wednesday is the best day in real estate because most listings start coming on Thursday and Friday. And, Mondays are really important follow-up days. And so if you're going to take a weekday weekend, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are, I think, the best because by Thursdays, you're starting to heat up and starting to prep your weekend and looking at all the hot sheets and all the new listings, right? So anyway, that's just me.
Smart.
But, let us know in chat if you think that otherwise, but that's what I've always said. So I love that, Fred. Any other things you see with showing agents that comes up that I didn't ask you?
Yeah, setting the wrong expectations to begin with. We didn't talk about behavior style and personality style and things like that. A basic disc profile. You want them to be a high I because they're representing you personally, not just the team brand, but you personally with being a lead agent. So they have to be personable. They have to be somewhat of an extrovert to be able to communicate with them. But they also have to be, I think, somewhat detail oriented as well. Right? So some sort of a C in there so they can hear and understand the details of what the consumer is saying while they're showing and putting it in their notes and reporting this back to you so that hey, I got to call John back. He wants to put an offer on this. Here was his follow-up. Awesome. I'll talk to you later because I'm going to show somebody else in 2 hours.
And when you say C, for all of you guys that are watching that don't know what that means, he's referring to the DISC. We call it the DISC, and it's 4 sort of distinct personality quadrants. D is like highly aggressive. I is very personable. S is loyal, steadfast, like security, stability. And C is like analytical, process oriented, right? So he's saying they need to kind of have process orientation. I agree, Fred. And I think that these are not hunters. In general, these are agents that are super customer service focused and detail oriented and who would rather make a living servicing others than maybe kind of going after it, right? And cold calling and, all the things that we have to do in sales. So yeah, that's great.
I agree.
All right. So we're again, to recap, we're talking about the four main principles to get buyers in 2022. Number one was, what are your lead pillars?
Yep.
Fred's favorite ones are open houses, right? Online and database. Number two was, the importance of and how to conduct a buyer consult. And we did a very, very aerial view of that. I know that, there's a lot of detail we can go. We've done many webinars just on that. Number three, just now, we just kind of went over how to effectively use a showing agent and a showing assistant and what that looks like. What's the last one, Fred?
So today's market, especially how to get your offer accepted.
Yep.
I think that's not that everything else isn't important, Via, but in today's world, man, I got agents that are just burned out with buyers and saying since COVID started, inventory's been low. I don't want to work buyers, right? And I'm like, hey, if you have a process in place, they're great because the market's going to shift. It's not permanent. So you have to have a good book of buyer business and how to get your offer accepted. So the way that we go about things is all the way from, forget showing assistant for now. Imagine you're setting up the showing in this situation. When you call the listing agent, hey, John, this is Fred, giving you a call. I want to show this property on 123 Elm Street tonight. And I want to see, hey, when can I get in? Can I get in at 5:30? Awesome. Hey, do you have any active offers on the property right now? Great. When I go there at 5:30 this afternoon and my client likes it and I send you an offer this evening, can I be in the running for the negotiation? Perfect. Are there any terms and conditions that your seller wants for me to put in my offer when I send it to you? Perfect. Thank you so much. And I look forward to working with you. Via, on that initial call, I'm already building a rapport with that agent. I don't even know if my client's going to like it, but I'm building the rapport and kind of planting the seed. And I'm better prepared for my client when I show that to them. They're interested in what that seller wants, right?
Okay. So for all of the markets like Seattle, where we have offer review dates, and that's not always the case. Do you guys ever hold offers for review date in Southern California?
Yeah, it's happened a lot lately because everything's been flying since COVID for the most part, right? So sometimes it says in the private remarks in the MLS, hey, showings are these days, and then offers are being reviewed Monday at 6 p.m.
What's your tactic with that?
Great.
Strategy, tactic, whatever.
So depending on what it is, I'll do my best. So let's say the listing comes on a Tuesday or Wednesday, yet they're not reviewing until Monday, 5 days later, right? Mm-hmm. I'll call the agent and I'll say, great, on that same call, hey, before I let you go, let me ask you a question. If my client loves it and gets you an offer that your seller will not refuse, are they willing to not wait till that day and get it signed today or tomorrow? I ask that question. Because then I'll know, they're like, doesn't matter what you give me, we're waiting until that day. I completely respect that. Awesome. Or like, well, it depends. I had one the other day in Southern California. Remember the buyer I told you earlier where I actually showed properties for the first time in a long time because she wanted me to? I got that listing, came on the market on a Tuesday. Tammy was my showing, showed it on a Wednesday. Buyer called me and said, Fred, whatever you got to do, get me that house, please, ethically speaking. I said, I got you. Cool.
Right.
I called that agent. I called him and his name, Eric. Derek, his name is. And I said, Derek, hey, listen, my client wants this house. I'll do whatever it takes, ethically speaking. If I get you an offer tonight, can you present it right away? And this is a Wednesday, not wait till Monday. Like, well, maybe. And I got the property under contract on Friday, and I got the guy to cancel the open house and cancel 25 showings and go from there. So it happens. It's not always, but it happens.
No. And this is my world. So Seattle's been doing this for, I don't even know how long. Seattle's been doing this for maybe a decade. We are one of the pioneers in holding out. So that's what I call a bully offer. Right. And I, this is a controversial topic, and I know it's going to, get some excited comments on the Pivot Shift Ahead group. But I will say this, when I'm talking from the listing agent side of my mouth, right, I'm going to have a different conversation with you than when I'm talking about my buyer. Whoever I'm representing, I am fiercely representing. And if we're representing a buyer, our one job is to get that house. So sort of like, if you like it or not, that people do that. If you're choosing to represent a buyer, you need to do whatever it takes to get them that house, like within reason. So, my comment about that, Fred, is if you're going to go in on a bully offer or an offer ahead of deadline, it needs to be an outstanding offer. I mean, it needs to be an offer that you're trying to get out of the listing agent what they are expecting to get. So if it's listed at, 1.2, but they're really thinking they want to get, now these are Seattle numbers. I shouldn't use those but they really think they're going to get 1.4 to 1.5. do you have a buyer that's willing to write an offer for like 1.45 or 1.5? We've had 2 houses in the last few weeks go into contract. Fred, are you ready? Are you sitting down? For $1 million over list price.
Oof.
$1 million over list price.
That's crazy.
I just want everyone to pause. $1 million over list price. So, you know, what you're trying to do is you're trying to anticipate what they think they're going to get, you know, out of that house and write them an offer. In a lot of cases, you're waiving everything. It's not worth it to go in early unless it's an extraordinarily strong offer. Now, I know some markets, you know, I've talked to people in Denver before, and definitely, you know, get into chat and let us know, but that where you could have 25 offers, but it only goes like 50,000 over list price, right? So it's different. How much does it go over there, Fred?
It depends on Southern California. I mean, just in the past 30 to 45 days, we've seen situations where homes are selling for 5,000 above list price. We've seen homes that have sold 325,000 above list price. It just depends case by case. They're going over, right? And I'm not going to talk about this today. I'm starting to see a little bit of a slowdown and shift because the rates going up, and that's kind of natural. So time will tell what that's going to look like. Yet it's still historically low inventory. So this conversation is extremely relevant in 2022 and as the year goes on.
Yeah, that's right. What else? Any other tips to get your offer accepted? It's such an important topic right now.
So yeah, number one, building a relationship with the listing agent, right? Number two, actually knowing your agreement in your state so well. And if you don't know it, talk to your broker, do some practice sessions, write it out, talk to experienced agents, know how you can write an offer. Here's a key thing. You're a powerful listing agent, Vija. I'm a powerful listing agent. I know that. I know, let's say I get 7 offers in front of me as a powerful listing agent because we're experienced. I'm immediately going to know just based off of how they wrote the offer and what box they checked or left blank on accident or what they did, who am I working with? Am I working with a true professional, or is it the sloppiest offer I've ever seen? I'm like, this is what the under contract transaction is going to look like.
That's right.
So writing a clean offer is critical. Critical. And then being in a position, you can't write a clean offer Vija if you don't coach your buyer on what the offer actually is in your state, how to write the offer, what terms and conditions are getting accepted in today's marketplace, and what they're just going to have to do to buy a home. And a typical thing I've seen across the agents that I've coached and mentored just in the past 12 months in North America, almost all markets are waiving appraisals and contingencies because they're just selling so far and above and so much faster than the appraisals are coming in. I'm not recommending you do that. You talk to your broker, you talk to your manager, you think what's right. But making sure that you're writing a clean offer, you're setting the expectations and coaching your client at what makes sense, and then they make the decision on what to write. You don't write the offer for them.
Oh, that is totally happening in Seattle. Yeah. It's in some situations, it's a given. You're waiving almost every contingency that you have available to you. I mean, I don't think it's about recommending. We're just talking about like what we're seeing, what we're witnessing. You're absolutely right. And it's tough. I think of, how Kate Conroy, who from the Tony Baroni team, how she rates her buyers. She's so strong at that. Maybe Robin can throw that link in there, but she does a stellar job, I think, in her buyer consult that she talks about, where she's like, are you ready to do whatever it takes to get a house? And a lot of people are not. And a lot of people, Fred, are not until they lose 1 or 2, and then they are.
It's funny how that works out, right?
Yeah, sometimes they have to lose 1 or 2. All right. Anything else on how to get your offer accepted?
No, that's it. Build a rapport with the listing agent, right? Okay. Making sure that you write the awesomest, terms and conditions, right? Make sure your client is fully on board, right? Okay. And I call it being extremely annoying to a listing agent. Literally, hey, Miss Vija, you're a listing agent. Vija, I know that I called yesterday. Hey, my client wants this house. I promise you, I will do whatever it takes to close this deal. You have no worries of me falling out of escrow or falling out of title and going back on the market. Let's get this deal done. If your seller doesn't even like what I just gave you, give me another counter and tell me what it takes.
And have the lender call the listing agent proactively. Don't even wait for the listing agent to call, because at a certain point, you have to think in terms of a seller, and money aside, if you're going to get multiple offers on a property, the top few offers are going to hover around the same number. They always do, right? They always do. And so at that point, they're just looking for the safest bet to close. Sellers are risk averse. I preach that all the time. Sellers do not want risk. They want the lowest possible risk transaction. So assuming the money and terms are good, right, Fred? Assuming that's good, you just want to give them 1,000% assurance that you're going to be the smoothest, easiest, sure transaction. So, here in Seattle, that means the quickest close you can have and then a rent back typically. Yep. A lot of the time sellers don't know. And so they'll say, well, I want a long close because I have to find another house. And I'll say, actually, what if we close in 30 days, but we let you live there rent free for another 60? So the money's in your bank and you have the peace of mind of knowing you sold your house. Oh, that's great. No one says no to that, right? So a lot of lenders, you cannot have rent backs longer than 60 days. So that tends to be the 59, 60 days. But anything to add to that?
No, that's it. And the only other thing that I would add is once you get it under contract and you get it approved, then you got to be able to do your best to problem solve the transaction, problem solve the title escrow, and we call it bulletproof the transaction, and make sure you're in a position where you retain the deal. That's a whole different training. Yet you want to be in a position to retain the deal. If you get your first contract, you don't know where to go to your broker, go to your team lead,
right.
And they'll help you be able to close.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you. Fred Sed, any last words before we wrap up that we didn't talk about that it's really important for everybody to know about buyers in 2022?
No, I mean, that's really the basis of what we talked about with the 4 pillars. As you know, we have a class coming up with Ford Coaching, Advanced Buyer Systems, and that's going to really go into 16 weeks of everything we talked about and more, step by step of exactly how to have a proven system to successfully run an efficient and effective buyer system.
Awesome. We will we'll throw the link there in chat, and make sure everyone knows how to get a hold of that on our follow-up. So thank you to Fred Sed, and thank you to all of you guys for continuing to tune in. We will see you next Wednesday at noon, same place, same time. It always is. And thanks for all your support, you guys. It's been a fun year so far, and it's been really fun bumping into you at some events recently and having you come up and tell me how much you're enjoying these webinars. That means a lot. So thank you, Fred, for your hour today, and thank you to all of you guys. Have a great day.
My pleasure.